very good opening to the event today. Thank you.
2021年南岛民族论坛开幕式
The opening ceremony of 2021 International Austronesian Forum. Please, we will now begin.
Quora Tatogi, Lu Kahun School Bavajina Nagagalang Na Tatogi, Lepiung Medesui, Loka Shimuquara, Kusinga Babagalenge Soni, Lalumoga Sayun Dosu. 各位长官，各位
Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests, good morning, everyone. I am the MC today, Sayun Dosu of the Adayal. On August 1st, 2018, we gathered here with our brothers and sisters of the Austronesian peoples from Pacific Islands and successfully reactivated the standing organization of Austronesian Forum. In the past 3 years, with support from our President Tsai and Premier Su, the various meeting affairs and the working projects have been developing and operating stably in the forum. In the Forum General Assembly today, with the theme of harmonization of Austronesian traditional leader system and modern politics, we have invited our traditional elders and traditional leaders from Taiwan and the Pacific area to share and exchange and dedicate towards the heritage and sustainability of Austronesian cultures. First of all, we would like to invite our elder of the Adayal to start our opening ceremony with a blessing of Lumuhu. And with the traditional chanting of Lumuhu, we pray for the success of today's event. And today we have Dasawatan and Batuwatan, and also the 16 indigenous commissioners together to bless for all of our distinguished guests and our Austronesian Forum. May I remind you to be respectful of this blessing ritual and please refrain from clapping.
Oh, nuai sami kinugi walchikai Tagalub koyat itanagin hoyal kutuk malikani. Oh, wayan hinluyan navinuke santa muslavang hoyaw gaw. Nanuriak sa siyon ni kani niyukta makavavaklodi Kia hamno lui vinuke sandasraral marahu sanyantanya inanungan gaw Nanuya sa ako minahoyaita niyong mavakan diyak sa siyon ni kani O kanata na yogan vasyakru suru vasilong kani O nanoya vakakuraho Vinukis pinkesan lagwan ni sami diyak sa siyon ni kane.
Hoy, wayan si belak, paaras mumulawasin, binakesan tayo sa suraran mabuwa. Wahanasi mo Musa tagasuki atun agyak lalamuhugin kwangan sa subakira hulaki usa mababiak na itatuturo magkakinakakulati tasi mo ili papayungi mabuwa. Hoale sekrangi wahaluki pinsirikan pinbayan limamu aki simu ihoyay mihita siyak nuwagiro mangaim tasaw nakasya kurakay na laki simamu. Oy, kuharalap yung kakuraho mamarahu kay sumali inungan luahan ay tana utu kakurahuro bihikay tana ikakakoyat ita kwaraku dilinhoyan tasiyoni kani babuwa.
Miso kanila noy kaji kani kwatai pungsa sku utukraho do yan naku utukin kaisan so kani sitap tebuci.
Karaho kautas kaysa may ginado
Ana mes sa te sunan.
isu kumusatay
Ti sa me koyat daksoni.
Saksoni mazi
Baji. Nga pucing kani ko pingsa. Asim.
我们谢谢打少
We would like to thank Dasawatan Avatuatan and our 16 indigenous commissioners for blessing our forum today. And at the very end of the ritual, they held up the glass of millet wine and a toast to our earth and to our ancestral spirits. We are very honored to have many of our guests here today. I would like to introduce all of our distinguished guests. First of all is Her Excellency President Tsai Ing-wen of the Republic of China, Taiwan. Premier Su Zhenchang of the Executive Yuan. Minister without Portfolio and Spokesperson Luo Bingchen of Executive Yuan. Our chairperson, Lee Jiangbaru of Austronesian Forum, Executive Council. We have many of our ambassadors and delegates to Taiwan. First of all, our Ngara State Traditional Leader, Tommy Rong-so. Her Excellency Ambassador Delmay Louisa Okril, Embassy of the Republic of Palau. Her Excellency Ambassador Limasen Teto, Embassy of Tuvalu. Her Excellency, His Excellency Ambassador Jordan Kefas, Embassy of the Republic of Nauru. Honorable Representative Tommy Kunji, Papua New Guinea Trade Office in Taiwan. Representative Jenny Bloomfield of Australian Office in Taipei. Deputy Representative Al Fadil Adam, Malaysian Friendship and Trade Centre, Taipei. Director Tina Wilson, New Zealand Trade Development Centre. Director Alex Lay, State of Hawaii Office in Taipei. Director for Political and Cultural Affairs, Martin Laflamme, Canadian Trade Office in Taipei. Special Assistant, Guam, Taiwan Office, Zheng Yixuan. We would also like to introduce our Deputy Minister Tian Zhongguang of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our Ambassador at Large, Funge Bodal, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. From our Legislative Yuan, Legislator Sufing Silugo. Legislator Yoshida Gun. Our Examination Yuan Minister without Portfolio Iwan Nawi and Control Yuan Member Pu Zongshen. Pasuya Poisonu and Control Yuan Member Ubay Datiao Ganasao, and Chairman Xie Shiqian from China Airlines, President Guo Mingzhen from National Zhenji University. We also have our traditional leaders of our indigenous peoples and our elders attending the event in Taipei today. Welcome. We also have our directors of indigenous affairs offices in local governments. Thank you very much for attending our event today. We would also like to thank all of our audience online watching live stream. Thank you very much for participating in this event. Next, we would like to invite the chairperson of the Austronesian Forum Executive Council, Ijang Baruo, on stage for his opening remark. I would like to remind everyone that he will be presenting his remark in his language, Amis. Please put your headsets on, turn to channel 1 for Mandarin and channel 2 for English. Our interpreters will be interpreting the remark into Mandarin and English accordingly. Now we ask our chairperson to remove his facial mask. President Tsai, Premier Su, former President Tommy Remonso of the Republic of Palau, ambassadors and representatives, indigenous traditional leaders, mayors of townships, towns, cities, districts in indigenous areas in Taiwan, representatives of indigenous administrative organizations in local governments, distinguished guests, and friends from the media. Good morning, everyone. As the chairperson of the Austronesian Forum Executive Council, I am very honored to be able to invite everyone to the Forum General Assembly today to discuss and share the status and development of the traditional social organization of indigenous peoples with a focus on the theme harmonization of Austronesian traditional leader system and modern politics. Over the past few years, I accompanied President Tsai Ing-wen on many visits to Austronesian countries and personally took part in important events of our diplomatic allies. And during the process, I was deeply impressed of the commitment and respect Austronesian countries paid to their traditional cultures, among which I was fortunate to have been appointed by President Tsai in 2019 to visit Palau as the special envoy of the President to attend the National Day celebration of the 25th independence of Palau. The National Day ceremony then was chaired by former President Tommy Remonso of Palau. Countries including the Marshall Islands and Tuvalu have also traditional leader systems in the vast Austronesian region, which we could learn from. The 16 indigenous peoples in Taiwan each have different social systems in their traditional society. Take my own people, for example. In addition to the Kakitaan community leader, we have a very strict age class system wherein rigorous training and labor division apply to different age groups. And the younger class must obey the teaching of the older class. It is with such training that the spirit of labor division, responsibility, and discipline of the Amis society can be passed on over the generations. However, just like many of the Austronesian peoples, the traditional leader systems of Taiwan indigenous peoples have somewhat changed over time. In addition, with support from the Taiwan government, President Tsai Ing-wen and Premier Su Tseng-chang supported in 2019 the verification and approval of the 6-year program of the Austronesian Forum, providing us with a stable budget and manpower to promote the various projects of language and culture, industry, human resource capacity, building the Austronesian Forum. With a round of applause, we would like to thank our President Tsai and Premier Su. Finally, I would like to thank all of the traditional leaders, mayors of townships, towns, cities, districts in indigenous areas, and local government officials for coming all this way to join us. And I hope that by bringing together the Austronesian traditional leaders in the forum today to share our experiences, we will be able to discover unlimited possibilities for the sustainable development of the Austronesian cultures. Thank you very much. We would like to thank our chairperson, Yi Jiang, and please put your medical mask back on. Thank you very much, and take your seats. As our chairperson said earlier on, the indigenous peoples in Taiwan each have their own social organization and traditional cultural systems, and they have changed somewhat due to time. But I believe that what hasn't changed was our mission towards the heritage of Austronesian cultures, just like the respect and persistence that the Republic of Palau has towards traditional cultural system. Next, we would like to invite traditional leader of the Nara State and former President Tommy Ramotso on stage for a brief remark.
Ali.
It's a great honor to be here and to share with you the purpose of this Austronesian conference. But of course, this is a great opportunity for me to pay my respect and also to say my greetings to you, Excellency President Tsai Ing-wen, Premier Su Chen, Minister Lupen Cheng, Minister Parod, who has made more visits to Palau than any ministers, the traditional leaders from all the different indigenous peoples, all elected representatives and directors, members of the diplomatic corps, all distinguished government officials, and ladies and gentlemen. I am here personally, and so I want to thank first and recognize the government of the Republic of China, Taiwan, for your friendship and collaboration and partnership with the government of Palau in instituting a travel bubble COVID-free environment, which enabled me, my wife Debbie, former Minister Maruk, Ngeriam Ringang, and joined by our Minister Olgril to join you here today. Like everyone else, Palau has had our fair share of difficulties and affected by the COVID-19 environment. But I think the message for all of us is that if friends work together and share what they have, then we can go a long way to addressing the challenges and problems of the COVID-19 environment. And I am here with a living proof of that. Of course, the travel bubble has also been made possible by the private industry. And so I noticed the chairman of the China Airlines here, and I also want to extend our gratitude and appreciation for their partnership. I also cannot go further without recognizing the fact that very recently, one of our paramount High Chief, Abdul Yutaka Gibbons, passed away while receiving medical treatment and care here in Taiwan. And I want to thank you, President Tsai Ing-wen, your government, Cinco Hospital, the China Airlines, and all the people who really took good care of our paramount chief and repatriated his body back to Palau so that we could give him the proper burial. Friends, the last time I saw Her Excellency Tsai Ing-wen, she was enjoying a soup of fruit bat. And after having her soup, she made the comment that it was a good soup and asked if there were any more surprises in store for her. But I want to relay this story because she certainly showed respect for our traditional practices, and that's the key word for why we are all here today. Respect. 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 Respect for each other. Recognizing the differences in our respective traditions and cultural practices, but knowing that we can coexist and live side by side for the good of our peoples. The good thing about the Austronesian Conference is that it's an opportunity to share facts and history, the history of our respective people, the roots of our people. You know, Palau is in the very northern Pacific, so we know that we had to come from somewhere. There's no further north of Palau. And we came from the Austronesian region. And yes, some of our ancestors did come from Taiwan, I believe. So if we were all to recognize and focus on our commonality, what it is that we have in common, what are the values that are very dear to us, I believe this world would be a much better place for all of us to live. So the responsibility is upon all of us today, before, during, and after this conference, to pass this knowledge, these practices, these values to our children and generations to come. When you think about it, my friends, the good values of tradition and culture, of respect, good governance, peace, and service for all, these are the very same values demanded and expected of our government and political leaders. So let these values work side by side. Traditional values, good government and political values. Let them work side by side to make life a much better world for our people. And let me close by saying, the ocean indeed does not divide us. It connects us together. And I thank you very much for your friendship and for your hospitality. May God bless all of us.
May Sulang, Mother Ngapuk, please be seated.
Hello. I must offer our traditional way of paying respect by doing this very short chant. Oh, the swokle. Oh, the swaklele yang. Matyaya karele. Astronesian friends, abo ado malarngi. Len sa mos marakalulu. Dun swada buda makiltareng. Mukada som sami mado. Ora le katamalbiyang. Way. Thank you very much, Ma'am Sulang.
May Sulang, Mother Ngapuk, 我们再次谢谢。
Again, please give our former Palau president a round of applause.
在2018年底，
At the end of 2018, CIP proposed a 6-year plan for Austronesian Forum with the great support of Premier Su. This proposal was approved in the next year in March so that we can get the preparation work on track. And now we are going to invite our next speaker to give an opening remark. That is Premier Su. Please join me to welcome Premier Su onto the stage. President Tsai, Minister Ijang Balul of COP, and Mr. Raymond Jesso and his lady from Palau, and distinguished guests, and also honorable representatives for our friends' countries, legislators and members of Control Yuan and Examine Yuan, and dear audience watching online, good morning. First, I would like to welcome all the traditional leaders from different indigenous peoples from across Austronesian region to attend this great event. And this is actually a great culture because of ancestrals' bravery and wisdom and the ability to explore. Austronesian peoples has now become the widest spread peoples across the widest region on Earth. And because of these ancient history, we see that Austronesian peoples also have a rich source of languages. And now it is perceived that Taiwan is the origin place of Austronesian peoples. Ever since President Tsai took her office, for her, it is very important to bring together Austronesian peoples who have spread across a wide region. It's just like a big tree with branches reaching wide, but the root is still in Taiwan. So they can all come back here to the root of the culture. Therefore, President Tsai has ordered that there should be a special budget to support the sustainability of Austronesian Forum so that we can have this forum held on a regular basis. And she also attached great importance to the preservation of Formosan indigenous peoples' cultures and languages. So for a long time, through the amendment of regulations and increasing of budget, that in Taiwan we can continue to preserve indigenous cultures and also put in place good services and education systems for our indigenous peoples, so we can roll out these plans. And today we have everyone here together to share our experiences and also build our connections. I hope with this great event, our hearts can be together. And just like the former president of Palau just said, that we show each other mutual respect. And we know that we are all a big family. And we are all close to each other, and we are all very important to each other. And for all different ethnic groups in this world, it is very important that we show each other respect and also live together peacefully. Then we will definitely make this world a better place for prosperity and also of rich cultures. And this is the goal that Taiwan is striving for, and we will continue to work hard to make the world a better place. Thank you very much. Thank you, Premier Su. Thank you for your encouraging words. 3 years ago, President Tsai Ing-wen was right here to join us for the reactivation of Austronesian Forum. And in her comments, she made it clear that she would like to see more dialogues and closer ties and cooperation through this forum. And today she is here with us again to witness that we have all kinds of dialogues and interactions on different levels. Now please join me to welcome President Tsai onto the stage.
Former President Ramon Gasu, traditional leaders, Premier Su, Minister Yi Jiang, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to once again join our partners both here and online at the Austronesian Forum. Former President Ramon Gasu, you are a good friend of ours, and we welcome you back to Taiwan, this time in your capacity as a traditional leader. Here, I would like to thank our former President Ramon Gasu for when I visited Palau and I had soup, and as former President Ramon Gasu mentioned earlier on, was the fruit bat soup. I'm sure you all know that the soup, fruit bat soup, is a very well-known and traditional soup of Palau. And when I was savoring it, I did not know it was the soup of fruit bat, but I tasted it anyway because I believe Mr. Former President. I believe him and I respect the traditions of Palau. Here, I would like to again thank former President Ramon Gasu for the hospitality during my visit and also for teaching me the traditions and cultural practices of Palau. While the past 2 years have posed serious challenges to people around the world, we Austronesian brothers and sisters have maintained our close bonds. We have worked hand in hand to fight the pandemic, cooperated in trade and continued social and cultural exchanges. Our determination to host this year's Austronesian Forum in the face of numerous obstacles is a perfect example of our mutual solidarity. During this ongoing pandemic, it is even more crucial that we continue to sustain our long-standing ties. I understand that recently we've lost two important Austronesian traditional leaders. One is Palau Paramount High Chief Ibdul Yutaka Gibbons and the chairperson of the Marshall Islands Council of Iroji Kotak Loak. I had the opportunity to meet these two elders when visiting Palau and the Marshall Islands. Traditional leaders like them still play key roles in Austronesian culture and provide important wisdom and guidance when their countries face challenges. The theme of this year's forum focuses on how to reconcile traditional Austronesian systems of leadership with contemporary politics and their harmonization. By exchanging insights on traditional culture and politics in this forum, I believe that we can open up new possibilities for the development of Austronesian societies. This forum was established in the very hope of renewing connections and expanding cooperation between us, the Austronesian brothers and sisters, while also contributing our perspectives on how to build a better region and a better world. In recent years, we have made steady progress in our cooperation in language, culture, trade, ecological conservation, publishing and translation, and international talent cultivation. And now, in addition to the Austronesian Forum headquarters in Taipei and the Secretariat in Taipei, the American Institute in Taiwan is now taking part in this forum for the first time. We hope that the U.S. government will officially join the Austronesian Forum as an observer. I look forward to fellow Austronesians and other influential countries in the Indo-Pacific using the Austronesian Forum as a platform to facilitate meaningful exchanges and cooperation. By working together, we can maintain the dynamism of Austronesian communities and spur sustainable development across the Indo-Pacific. Thank you, and I wish you all a successful forum. Thank you, President Tsai, for your encouragement. Because President Tsai and Premier Su have other agendas today, we would like to thank our President Tsai and Premier Su with a round of applause for attending our opening ceremony today. Thank you, President. Thank you, Premier. Thank you very much. Right now, we would like to invite our guests to please take your seats again. This has been a very rare opportunity. We have two indigenous legislators here today. We would first like to welcome legislator Sufin Silugu on stage to give us a short remark.
I
would like to remind you that our legislator will be speaking in the Amis language. Please put your headsets on and turn to channel 1 for Mandarin, channel 2 for English. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests, this is like a mini United Nations assembly today, and it's an opportunity for us to speak in our language. Today, I would like to talk about our forum today, I see Safalu and Hong Yi-zhang, the former legislators, and I am reminded of 20 years ago. We have visited all of the countries that are here today. What do we mean by Austronesian language? It means that the island countries to the south of us. And today we are gathered here as Austronesian peoples. And the Austronesian peoples are a family. And we followed Professor Tsai and legislator Hong Yi-zhang to visit all of the Austronesian countries. I remember former President Tommy Ramongso was also a very good friend of us, our best friend. From Palau to Fiji to New Zealand to Australia, and also to the Marshall Islands and Kiribati. These are all Austronesian peoples. In short, we visited these countries. Our languages are shared. We have similar words for numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What does mata mean? It means eyes, and this is the ears. So we are the origin. So today we are gathered here to cooperate and help one another and share. These are the values that are deep in my heart. So we have 16 indigenous peoples in Taiwan. There are many, but we need to further work together in solidarity to become an important, vital force to the country. Indigenous peoples are the important force to the nation, to the state. Today, I am very honored to be here to witness all that has been said within us. And I wish the forum a great success today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Legislator Sufing Silugu. Next, we would like to invite our legislator Yoshida Kun on stage for a short remark. Thank you. Our Minister Yi Jiang of Council Indigenous Peoples, who is also the chairperson of the Austronesian Forum Executive Council. Our most important distinguished guests today, the former President Tommy Ramongso of Palau and his wife Debbie, and our Deputy Minister Tian, and all of our members of Control Yuan and Examination Yuan, and former legislator Cai Zonghan, and our diplomatic corps. Good morning, everyone. Today is the 25th this year is the 25th anniversary of the Council of Indigenous Peoples. So that is why the Austronesian Forum has been held on a wider scale. At the Legislative Yuan, I am personally the chairperson of the leader for the Austronesian Alliance of Indigenous Legislators. And whenever I have time, I talk with legislator Sufing Silugu and other legislators to visit our Austronesian countries. We treasure this relationship and we try to work with them as much as possible. And we support all of the events that are held by CIP and even the Pacific Art Festival. All of these are supported by us across all parties. These are not just supported by the Executive Yuan, but also the Legislative Yuan. President Tsai was also here earlier on to thank our former President Tommy Ramonso in person to thank him for sharing that anecdote on her drinking the fruit bat soup and for sharing this cultural practice. I would also like to thank former President Tommy Ramonso for hosting our Minister Yi Jiang in 2019 on the 25th Independence anniversary, and he gifted me with a necklace made of shells. I was up for running a re-election of legislator a few months later, and that was a very important gift because that was a blessing for my re-election. Without that gift, I would not have been re-elected. I've been wearing that necklace ever since. I would like to thank Tommy for this gift. We have a very tight relationship between Taiwan and Palau, and I understand that the Sandiman Township and also Fongbin Township in Hualien have all established sister township relationship with the Twin City relationship with Palau. So we would like to thank our former President Tommy Ramonso. I would also like to speak in English.
Today, in the Austronesian Forum, as the president of the Austronesian Parliamentarian Friendship Association, I have tried every effort to support the CIP in its great endeavor to promote the friendship and the cooperation among the Austronesian people. The budget and the policy of the CIP, Council of Indigenous People, has been unanimously supported by the close political parties members in the Legislative Yuan. So we supported their efforts in promoting the Austronesian friendship. You know, we are the one family, shared many linguistic and cultural similarities. So we have to cherish the friendship and try to promote our cooperation and get to know each other and show our mutual concern to each country's conditions. So with this, I hope all the distinguished guests from abroad have a pleasant journey in Taiwan, and wish the Austronesian Forum a great success. Thank you very much. Thank you.
谢谢委员的祝福哦，谢谢。
Thank you, legislator, for blessing us with your remark. I would like to briefly explain our procedure today. We will be moving into 2 sessions today. The first session is traditional social organization of Taiwan indigenous peoples and the changing indigenous people, which will end at 11 this morning and can be adjusted accordingly with about 25 to 30 minutes break. And our second session will begin at 11:30 and scheduled to end at 12:30 this morning. After which, we invite all of our guests today to participate in our luncheon today. Later on, our moderators for each session will have 3 minutes, and our speakers will have 15 minutes to speak, and each of our panelists will have 8 minutes to speak. In the last 3 minutes of our speakers' session, we will be ringing a bell to remind our speaker, and 1 minute before the end of the panel discussion, we will also be ringing the bell to remind everyone. Because in our second session, we will have 2 panelists joining us online. We would like to ask our moderator to make sure to keep the time. And now, without further ado, we move into the first session where we invite our traditional leaders of different ethnic groups to share with us on their social organization. We now give the floor to our moderator and panelist, Professor Saflu, and our speaker, Xie Rongxiang, our panelist, Pasuya Boitsonu, and Akilasai Bakayawan, and our moderator and panelist, is Professor Saflo, who has long been concerned about the policies and education of indigenous peoples and has worked to promote the Amis language and has great knowledge in the system of traditional leaders. In 2015, he led a delegation to visit the Marshallese for the Pacific Islands Traditional Leaders Summit. So whether it's local, the traditional social organization and system of local Taiwan or the Austronesian world, Professor Saflo has great insight in it. We now give the floor to our moderator. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Welcome. I think because you cannot read the word clearly because of the font. So our topic today is the harmonization of Austronesian traditional leader system and modern politics. We realize that Austronesian traditional leaders now play an important role in political systems, but we found that in Taiwan, Austronesian traditional leaders among foremost and indigenous groups have seen dwindling of their power and also a decline of their influence. So we would like to see the possibility of harmonization between the old system and the modern politics. And maybe our forum session today will show us some path forward for a possibility of harmonization. So I'm now going to give the floor to the first speaker. The first speaker is the first speaker comes from Sandiman Township from Pingtung, and he arrived in Taipei last night with his wife. And the third speaker, the panelist, will be our current Control Yuan member, who is going to talk about the Zhou traditional leader system. And the last panelist will be Ali Sai Bagawan, Lin Zhixing, who is going to talk about traditional leader system as well. And about myself, I'm going to talk about Gagidaan, the traditional Amis leader system. So we are going to individually talk about our specific fields. And today, I would also like to hear comments from the floor so that traditional leaders in Taiwan can be aligned with our fellow Austronesian countries. And they can also be enshrined in the political system and be looked up to. And now I'm going to give floor to the township mayor from Pingtung Sandiman Township, who is going to give us a presentation on the Paiwan traditional leader system. Today, we are here in a beautiful venue, and we are very delighted. We are blessed by God and ancestral spirits. I'm going to talk to you today, but also I'm going to learn from you today. And my topic today is about the future and past of the traditional Paiwan leadership system. But before I start, I would like to share with you a story, an anecdote from last night. when I was I was having a conversation with officials from Palau, and something they said really impressed me. So I was told that in Palau, whenever there are big events, especially in the communities, it's always the traditional leaders who take the lead on important event, and it's always the traditional leaders who open an event. The laws and regulations of Palau have stipulated that these traditional leaders would the traditional leaders of Palau would be protected, so they do enjoy a certain privilege. So when I heard that, I was really touched. So this is what I would like to share with you today before I start my talk. And I'm very honored and pleased today that we are here at this forum. We know Austronesian peoples have the same ancestral root. So we are here today happily. So I think our ancestors are the happiest today because we have our fellow brothers and sisters and traditional leaders from different Austronesian groups visiting us from overseas. So I believe our ancestors are happy today, and it is definitely going to be a rewarding event because we are able to share with our traditional leaders from different communities. And now I'm here to talk to you about the traditional Paiwan leadership system. So my talk will be divided into 3 parts. First, I will talk about the past of our traditional leadership system, their roles and responsibilities, and they rule the entire community, and they manage all the community affairs, and they also care for the people of our communities, and they also are highly respected by our people. So our elders would say that the leaders were not chosen by people, they were chosen by gods when Paiwan people were created by gods. So as a traditional leader of Paiwan community, should his or her parents pass away, then the first child, the firstborn child, it may be a daughter or a son, would be the successor of these leadership role. And it is the same for shaman and priests. So they are not elected. Their positions have already been, their titles have already been decided when they were born, because these leaders were chosen by gods at the very beginning to lead our people. So regardless of gender, the firstborn child can be a daughter or a son, can inherit all the authority of a family. So our traditional leaders are the spiritual backbone of the entire community. In the past, people would not have different thoughts about leadership. When a leader said something, and when a priest said that we are going to do something, our people just obey and follow them. Therefore, in the past, we have seen solidarity and unison, and they show great respect for traditional leaders. This is our tradition. Our people show great respect to our traditional leaders. So, what are the privileges of these traditional leaders? So, they have the right over the mountains and the rivers, the hunting grounds, the games, and the people. So, these are the subjects of traditional leaders. So, they rule over them. And also, the commoners obey the orders and the words of traditional leaders because they lead the community toward a better future. I think it's probably just like our modern governments, that the government leaders have all the powers. And in the past, people do not protest against traditional leaders. So in Taiwan, we have four social hierarchies. So there are four classes. The first is Mugusa, which is the seed. And that is followed by nobles. And then that followed by that is priests, and then officials, and lastly, commoners. So that is the social hierarchy of Taiwan people. So we all have our different roles and identities. So we all individually have our own responsibilities. So we always obey our leaders' decisions. People do not protest. There were no conflicts. Therefore, in the past, we lived a peaceful life, and also we showed a strong solidarity. However, such a beautiful cultural institution was changed during the Japanese colonial period when the Japanese came. Our social hierarchy was sabotaged, affected, because we saw police power intervening our community affairs, and they superimposed themselves on top of traditional leaders. So their status, our traditional leaders' status, was threatened, and also all the land were became national properties had been nationalized. So the community lost the land rights, and the people also stopped paying tributes. So that system devastated and destroyed entire Taiwan cultural values, and also people were relocated to other communities. So that was the disintegration of the authority of traditional leaders. Because the Japanese government wanted to control all these traditional leaders. Therefore, they started to marry off the children of these traditional leaders so they can have the power, they can control all the community powers. In the past, it was really difficult, especially during the Japanese colonial period. The arrival of the colonial government destroyed all of our institutions and culture. And this is also an issue that we continue to face today. And traditional leaders in the past were supported and trusted by people. The elders told me that it is because the Sunarigunan, that as a traditional leader of the community, you control manage the community, your job is not to exploit your people. Your responsibility is to carry the burden for your people. You share their burden with them in ceremonial events, in weddings and funerals, and in painful moments. Those are the burdens you have to carry together for your people. And if there are vulnerable people in your community, then the tributes you received as a traditional leader will be the things that you share with those people of a weaker social standing. So this is a very important responsibility of traditional Taiwan leaders. And for those people who are displaced, that it is the traditional leaders' responsibility to replace these people again. And the traditional leaders, when they take care of these people, and then these people, of course, would follow the cultural practice. Therefore, in the past, we do not see any protest demonstrations and conflicts in our community. We show a spirit of unity. It was such a wonderful time, but then the colonial period, the colonists, the Japanese colonizers came and they destroyed everything. And then after KMT government came, they imposed a national system on us because they wanted to impose Han traditions and cultures on us because they thought that our culture is the base one, the weaker one. Therefore, Taiwan people now do not show any respect to elders and traditional leaders. They just lead their individual lives. And our elders were so sad at witnessing this. They cried. They really miss the past. But now we no longer see people showing respect to traditional leaders, and people no longer remember how a traditional leader would take care of people in the community. And we started to see social divide. But in the past, it was so wonderful. People were all righteous and decent. And also our stories and also our codes of conduct were passed down orally from generation to generation. And because we also have a priest and shaman in our community as our spiritual backbone, and that is also the cornerstone of our peaceful life together. So what should we do now? Because we do not have writing system. And actually, all indigenous peoples of Taiwan do not have a writing system. So we worked hard to rebuild our culture. I think for all the indigenous township mayors, it is time for us to reflect on the system. We need to have institution to protect our traditional leaders, just like the government and also like the Palau traditional leaders are protected. And also the title should be respected. And we hope that traditional leaders of our indigenous communities can again see people respect them. So we pray that God will bless our event today and our ancestral spirits would be here with us to help us to show solidarity. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ranglu Lu Yong, for wrapping up on time. And our next speaker will be Pasuya Boizonu. And you have 8 minutes to give your presentation.
Moderator, our fellow panelists, all of our friends here today, our traditional leaders of indigenous peoples, and our members of the diplomatic corps, especially our guest from Palau, former President Ramon Jussel, Palau, where I have visited, all of our members of the diplomatic corps. Good morning, everyone. I am from Ali Shan, the Mount Ali, central Taiwan, and I am Patsuya Poizonu. And please start my slides here. Thank you. I am talking about the changes. Today, I would like to share with you some of the more typical or classic organization of the Zoi society. Our moderator is from the Amis, and it's a very typical matrilineal society. And our Professor Mazazalina, our speaker, is from a dual system society where the eldest child inherits the family. And the speaker from Pinu Umaya who will speak next after me, is also a matrilineal society. And the Zhou society where I come from is a patrilineal society. And this patriarchal society is also shared by the Atayal and Bunun people. But our society describes us as Beyonce, where there is a traditional leader. Beyonce is from the root word of bee, Beyonsusi. When a bee sees his king bee start to move, the swarm of bees will follow the king bee. So we use this Beyonce to symbolize a leader who has the ability to lead a pack of people for these people to willingly follow you. Next page. The Austronesian peoples is, in fact, the social organization is very similar to ours and unique in the world. Yesterday, our former president, Ramin Ghasol, talked about his society being a matrilineal society. He must be very nice to his wife because his wife is the one who keeps track of his finance. And it's the same for the financial system in their country. But my own people, the Zhou people, we are a patriarchic society. Next page. And next page. You can see that Zhou is situated right in the center of Taiwan. We are surrounded by other patriarchic societies. In the past, we have Hossa, the collective community, which has a very complete social organization. It is a kingdom in itself. We have Beyonce, the traditional leader. We have Mama Myongyi, the elders council. Yofa Foyana, which the warriors, the foot soldiers. Mames Bingi, the women's group. Kuba, the men's assembly house. And the ceremonial site. And Yono, the sacred tree. So in the past, we have 4 main Hossa, but because of the non-indigenous peoples and the plague, we now only have 2 collective community, Tafuya and Tapanu. And here we can see that the entire community organization is supported by all of these different roles and functions. We have the mythology, we have the ritual house, we have the assembly house, the large-leaved bayan, the ritual site, the spirits and we have a complete worship ritual, and the lives and the rituals we have the miapo, the sowing ritual, Homeaya, the harvest ritual. We also have Mayasvi, the ritual for solidarity. And the role that our traditional leader play, you can see this is Kuba, the men's assembly house. Right now, to this day, it still sits at the center of our indigenous community. In the past, it's where it's used to train and educate the men, and women, the female, are trained and taught at home following the older women. This is our sacred tree, Yono. And when the god of war and God, they come to earth, this is the form that they take. And this is the flower of the god. And this is Tufuya, my Hosa. And this is our traditional leader, Byung-si. And the people that follow him are the adult male in the community. During Mayasvi, this is how our war ritual and our ritual of solidarity look like. I have participated for 40 years in this ritual. And in February this year, someone reminded me that you are the oldest male in this entire ritual. I am actually only 64 this year. I am nowhere near old. You can see this was when I was younger. Now I have lost all of my hair, but I will continue in our participation. We love red, the color red. We have Homiaya, the harvest ritual, where the family gathers around. We also have, as our traditional leader, as I talked with Mr. Luwan, he said that the nobility can tax their people, but we need to work for our own livelihood. So we may be a patriarchy society, but we still need to make our own way. Society has been changed due to religion. We hope that our social organization and our traditional leader system can be passed on through our future generations, so that our future generations can continue to smile and move forward confidently. May you always breathe breathly against COVID-19. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Poitsonu, for giving us an explanation of the traditional leader system and social organization changes of the Zou. In the future, we will continue to follow our traditions. Next, we give the floor to our Pinu Umayan speaker.
Moderator, distinguished guests, especially our traditional leaders from the Austronesian world. I'm a member of Puyuma people. My Chinese name is Lin Zhixin, and my Puyuma name is Alizai Bagawine. And today I'm going to talk about the current status of Puyunumayan traditional social organization. So these people live traditionally in Taidong Plain area to the eastern coast of Taiwan. and we have a population of about 1,400. And we see that our people have distributed to different parts of Taiwan. And it means that if you want to hold hands with your friends, you have to meet at least 2,000 people before you meet someone from the Puyuma people. But even though we have a small population, we still excel in every aspect of the society, and that also has to do with our social organization, that is age class, and also the operation of assembly house. And the assembly house is called Balaguan. And when Balaguan is used to refer to a space, it means that it is a council room for the community people, and also it is also the main place for the ceremonial site. And this is a space ruled by men, and because it used to be a military training base for men, therefore it was also called as men's house or men's assembly house. But after the imposition of national systems, that was the house was rendered into an idle space. However, because of our efforts of cultural revitalization, Balaguan again has become a center of our cultural revitalization. When Balaguan is used to refer to the operation of our social organization, it is actually a kind of institution that is about the growth training, attribution, and job and responsibilities of a man. And also for the men, this is entire system for process of men going through the youth assembly house, serving the community, and even taking care of family in the community. And it used to be where the warriors were trained, and now it was no longer possible for them to conduct military training here. Therefore, now has become a cradle to foster our community engagement and awareness. So this is more like a school, a community academy. And also for a lot of our Paiwan indigenous communities, we have more than one Balaguan in one community. So for example, the community I belong to is called Puyuma community, and in the past we had 6 Balaguans. So we have Balaguan members from the same clan, and also one of the Balaguan were formed by clan members from the south, and also another one was dominated by the clan from the north. And also we also have Dabuban, and these were for the young people, so they were independent from Balaguan. They were operating solely and independently by the teenagers of our community. And also there was sort of a competition between different Balaguans for growth. However, as time changed, and also there are different decrease the roles and responsibilities of Balaguan, so we have only managed to reserve one Balaguan. Therefore, contemporary Paiwan people have no choice but to choose to join one Balaguan or not. And in terms of the age class in Balaguan, and their roles and responsibilities are listed here on the slide. And here, overall speaking, we can have the Gabuban and Balaguan. So the Gabuban was for the teenage stage, and also for Balaguan it was for the adult young men. And then also Marulatan is about the age class between elementary school to high school. So they receive 3 years of Spartan like training, and then the next stage will be the older ones, so they have these autonomy self-governing system. And for Puyuma people, it is very highly emphasized that these young people, they have to manage themselves and govern themselves and independently. And also we have this ritual that for the teenagers, they have to hunt for the monkeys. However, in the 1948, that because of KMT government intervention, they asked us to stop hunting the monkeys. So we have around 500,000 of monkeys in Taiwan, but we have less than 5,000 Puyuma young teenagers in Taiwan. So we have 4 stages: Miambutan, Bansalan, Maidagan, and Alabat, the 4 stages in the Balaguan age classes. So you have to train in these different age class. They have to conduct a 3-year training, and for these teenagers before they become adult. So the first class is the main manpower source for Balaguan. And they are not yet married. And the next age class are the ones who are married, but they are the executive member. And the last one will be Maidaan, those elders above the age of 55. And that is actually a lifelong position. They have to be the cultural carrier in the community, and they also need to play the role as the mentor and also form a council for community affairs. And because Balaguan is no longer playing a military independent council in the community, so we don't have that military function anymore, and it has now become a cultural site for our cultural asset protection. And going forward, we hope that Balaguan can continue to play important role in the future. Thank you for your attention. I think our 2 panelists have made it very clearly within the time allotted. Thank you very much. And the next speaker will be presenting about the social institution of Amis people. And I will also be the panelist to share with you the traditional system. So for the traditional social organization of Amis people, we have priests, and also the traditional leaders. They are playing like a judicial role, and the priests, they are like the legislators in modern society. And also for age class, the male age class institution, they are sort of like the administrative power. So we have the judicial power, legislative power, administrative power in our traditional community. And also we use the term traditional leaders now, but in Mandarin we use this term chief. And when did we start this term? Because during the Qing dynasty invasion, they have set up the native leader system, and they appropriate the same system in mainland China. But the term, because of its vulgarity, when the Japanese government came, they changed it to the native leader. But the community continued to use the term Gagidaan, and in the past, the Gagidaan was chosen by the elders class, and then the government of Japan would give them like a medal proving their status as Gagidaan. So in addition to managing community affairs, the Gagidaans, they have to also be responsible for indigenous children's education. During the Japanese colonial period, Gagidaan recruited children to attend schools. So they were also responsible for the administrative work of education system. And also in the traditional system, they also have the community council. So in Amis language, Gaigi was actually a borrowed term, and sometimes we continue to use that. So sometimes we use Gaigi, or in the past we used Madadenyi or Masasuwal. So it's about we listen to each other and we talk to each other, we exchange our opinions. So it's used to solve land disputes and sometimes incur punishment for people who have committed crimes. So we have indigenous council. That means that we also have autonomy system. In the past, it was Ngasao who managed their own families, and when the population grew, that has become like a sort of like a council of indigenous autonomy rule. However, Gagidaan is still responsible for managing the community affair. So start from very early on, we have already have the concept of autonomy. And also, like our previous speakers talked about assembly house. Actually, for a Miss assembly house, it's actually a political center, a financial economic center. After the arrival of KMT government, a lot of our assembly houses were appropriated by the government. For example, the Malan Community Assembly House were appropriated by another radio broadcasting station. So in the absence of these assembly houses, we lost our foundation for managing community affairs and we lost our territory. Therefore, Gagidaan could not do anything. And I attended the 25th anniversary of these Ethnic Studies Department of Donghua University. So I continue to listen to their ritual ceremonies. So first they have Banzagan Barlun, Emifafa, and Saizumuk, Balamuku, Sabalangao. So they actually do follow a certain sequence of the social order or social class, and is actually already quite rare in the modern society. And that is something that we need to think about. And also, we need to also look at the roles and status of other traditional leaders in other Austronesian countries. Take the Marshall Islands, for example. So they have institutions similar to a Senate House. So they stipulate laws, they make laws, and for the laws that made that in violation of traditional culture, and then the Senates, they can actually oppose this and veto this the law. And for Samoa, and they have Matai. So Matai is actually the member of this traditional leader class. So those were the people who are qualify for engaging in politics. Even though that was changed in March of 1991, they have a universal suffrage. But for only those Madai were allowed to be elected. So legislators, before they were elected, they have to first be elected as traditional leader. And for the Fiji, they continue to have this high chief assembly, so they can nominate their candidate for legislator, and they also have the power to recall a president. You can see how powerful they are. So they have 32 seats in Senate House, and also the High Chief Council can nominate 14 people in the Senate. And we are going to hear from our Palau representatives about Palau system. So why is that in Taiwan we see a decline of the authority of Gagidaan? Because first, the assembly house was appropriated by the government, and also the mayor of the village or also have replaced Gagidaan because they are the ones with money. So they have replaced Gagidaan. Gagidaan now were only left with the authority over the harvest rituals. And currently, these traditional leaders were elected through a democratic system, but a lot of young people, when they're elected, they don't know anything about traditional culture. And in recent years, we see that a lot of times these traditional rituals were interrupted because we would have the local government heads to give a speech, and that interrupt the whole process of the rituals. And also, the Gakida'an plays a different roles from priests. So there is now a confusion. So that is also our responsibility to really revisit this institution and to review it. So we really need to go back to our traditional social organization as our reference point, because we have this traditional legislative, administrative, and judicial powers already within our community traditional culture. And so we have the three speakers, who is Langwun Luyan, and who is also a traditional leader, and that is why he was able to talk to us entirely in his own indigenous language. And also Basuya Boizonu shared his experience as a young man during the traditional rituals of the Zhou community.
And looking back, we can see the many different changes and also influences from the Western cultures. And also, Aguilar Sai has also shared with us the age class trainings, which is very similar to military training in his society, which is to safeguard the lives and assets of the indigenous community. So we can see that there is a system of self-governance in these indigenous communities, and we have a certain leader structure as well. So now it's all about exploring how we can further resume that structure and the system for it to really exercise its former roles. Now, we don't really have a lot of time today for question and answers, so we will be ending this session now. We would like to thank our speaker and our two panelists. Thank you very much for your participation. With a round of applause, we would like to thank all of our speakers, panelists, and moderator for the first session. We will now be going into a 20-minute break. Please return to the venue at 11:25. Thank you.
我们请第一场
We would like to invite our moderator, speaker, and panelists in the first session to return to the stage so we can take a group photo. And for everyone else, feel free to move into the corridor where we have snacks prepared for the break time. Please do return to the venue at 11:25. We will begin on time. In our second session, we have two panelists who will be joining us online from different time zones. So it's very important for all of us to return here on time later on. Thank you very much.
各位在场的长官、同仁贵宾，若需要合照的话，可以往前合照。
好，现在我们趁茶叙交流的时间哦，主委也在现场，他也是我们南岛民族论坛执委会的主席，想要合照的就趁这个时段哦，我们大家一起到台前来合照。Your Excellency, Ambassador, Honorable Representatives, it is free that if you would like to take photo, we can take this opportunity to take the photo right now. 好的，我们所有的与会贵宾哦，我们第2场次的研讨即将。
So our second session is going to start in 5 minutes. And please follow the instruction of our staff on site and take your seats. Thank you.
佳梅在现场吗？佳梅，佳梅，哦，上。好，麻烦现场的工作人员，我们尽快。好，我们请现场的工作人员赶快来引导贵宾就座。我们
Our second session will be attended by speakers and panelists on site and also online. So please be seated.
Jayo. 好，我们请与会的贵宾尽速来就座。
So please be seated for our next session.
好，我们请我们设备工作组的人员也就位哈。好，那我们前面如果有一些空的位置的话，也大家可以。
Please do feel free to fill in the seats in the front rows. And we do encourage all of our government officials from Indigenous Affairs Office to sit in the front rows. And I would like to ask our staff on site to facilitate and guide all of our audience to return to their seats. And we're going to start our second session. We are going to talk about traditional leader social system of the other islands and in other countries. Thank you for returning to our forum. And first, I would like to introduce to you our legislator Chen Ying is now here on site with us. And also, legislator Sadai Daho Vedzach is here with us as well, and they attended a morning session in the Legislative Yuan, and they have took time out of their busy schedule to join us. Now we would like to invite legislator Chen Ying to join us on the stage to give us a few words.
那提醒所有支持。
A reminder for all of our speakers that while you're giving a speech on the stage, you can remove your face masks.
Aloha. 主委。
Minister Ijan Balot, and also our ambassador at large, and also our foreign representatives from our Austronesian countries. Good morning. I used aloha to greet you because when I was still young, I went to the Brigham Young University Hawaiian campus to study for my degree. And in that short period of time, I was a tour guide at the Polynesian Tourist Center for a short period of time. So I met a lot of good friends from Austronesian different Austronesian countries. So today, because our joint efforts today, that Taiwan is a very safe country, free of COVID-19, and it's quite a accomplishment that we can have a big family gathered here. And I would like to give you a overview of the start of Austronesian Forum. I'm going to share my father's experience. In 1999, he started the Austronesian Cultural Festival, and in 2002, when he was the Minister of CIP, he convened the first Austronesian Leadership Conference, and he also gathered these leaders to sign a declaration of Austronesian people. And until this day, over a course of more than a decade, we have seen this Austronesian Forum grew to a remarkable scale. And together with legislator Sadai, we have been very supportive of the budget, passing the budget of Austronesian Forum, and it's also our job and duty to safeguard the interest of our people. And we do welcome all of our fellow indigenous people to join us at this forum, and we can also continue to support this forum, and we look forward that this continue to serve as a platform on which we can always meet and greet each other. Thank you. And we would like now to invite legislator Sadai to join us on the stage and give us a few words.
Dapat yang mapolat sabau makanala diaken di sadayaken. Saya bungan numi ara cili a saya dara akan numi pulingao. Aloha， 非常的高兴。
I would like to first express my thanks to CIP for organizing this forum so that we can bring together our good friends and families here. And not too long ago, I attended a art exhibition. It was called Our Distance with the Future. So one of the installation was made by the tree leaves of paper mulberries, and because the paper mulberry is the treasure trove of all of our Austronesian cultural codes, and even though we only have around 300 million population across the globe, but we have the widest distribution area, and also we are proud of our richest number of languages and cultures. So we are really proud that we can all become a big family, and we are just like the paper mulberries that we know. Wherever we go, we always carry the cultural codes with us. And as an indigenous legislator in our national legislative institutions, that we can continue to fight for the rights and interests of Austronesian peoples in Taiwan for better social and economic status. And today, we have a big mobilized order in Legislative Yuan because we have passed the 3 acts today, and all of the 3 acts are important to the interests of indigenous peoples. For example, one of the acts is about this Health Act for insurance coverage of military service people, and also we have an act for the welfare of our sportsmen, and also sports players, and also indigenous schools can be set up in different communities. And also some of the constraints were lifted. So today at this forum, we talk about the modern challenges imposed on indigenous communities. And I believe that we can actually reclaim our traditional order, languages, and institutions so that we can again have a deep root in our land and earth and continue to grow and prosper us. So I look forward to work together with our indigenous friends for a better future. And I believe that going forward about indigenous autonomy and also that the indigenous communities to be legalized as in the personhood of indigenous communities can be legalized. And I believe that we are not far from that goal. And thank you very much. Thank you, Legislator Sadai. And in the first session, we quickly had an overview of the traditional social organization of Taiwan indigenous peoples. And now we are going to turn our gaze to Pacific Islands. And I would like to invite the second session moderator, Professor Gadu. And also our speaker will be Tommy Remengessu from Palau. And also we have 3 panelists, and one will be here with us today, and the other 2 will be joining us online. The first one will be Dr. Crab, and the other one who will be Michael Kabua, who is the High Chief of Ralik Chain. And the 2 of our speakers are already online with us. So I would like to introduce to you our moderator, who is also the Professor Emeritus of the College of Indigenous Studies of National Donghua University. And this year, Professor Gadu focused on the study and research of the history of Taiwan communities of Taiwan. Now I'm going to give the floor to Professor Gadu and Minister Yi Jiang, and also distinguished guests and my predecessors. Thank you for giving us a very quick overview and also about traditional or social organization of indigenous peoples of Taiwan. And for this session, even though some of our panelists have to join us online, but it is really our great honor that today the former president of Republic of Palau is here with us, and he is going to talk about his own experience with this topic. And also our organizer have invited 3 panelists, and one of them is the former CEO of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, Dr. Crab. And Dr. Crab is going to join us online. And also our another panelist is going to share with us her experience as the executive secretary of the headquarters of the Austronesian Forum and her future aspiration for this organization. And the third panelist is the High Chief of Raleigh Cheng and Senator of Niti Jela, representing Kwajalein Lane Atoll of the Republic of Marshall Islands. So Michael Kabua is going to join us online as well. So please join me to give a round of applause to our keynote speaker, Tommy Remengeso, to join us on the stage. Please join me to welcome our speaker, and he is going to talk about the traditional leadership organization of Austronesian people. Please join me on the stage.
Once again, thank you very much for the invitation to join all of you here today on this very important Austronesian conference. I was especially pleased to see the presence of Her Excellency President Chai Ing-wen, and of course the Premier and the ministers and the leaders of the legislature who are here. So I think Minister Parod is very happy about that kind of support, as well as the leaders from all the various indigenous tribes here. It's always good to see our government leaders to participate in a very important issue. Let me first convey my respects and best wishes to the traditional and government leaders, all of you here today. And then I understand our brothers and sisters from the Marshall Islands and elsewhere are also joining us. So let me also extend my Yagwe and greetings to them as well. I mentioned earlier this morning that just recently we buried our beloved Paramount Chief Ibdul Yutaka Gibbons of Palau after some 48 years of traditional leadership. He was a true traditional leader in the full sense of the word. He defended the culture and the traditions of Palau and was a man of the people. Despite the fact that becoming a paramount chief is a responsibility for life, he stood by the people all the time and was very active in championing the issues of the common people and the general population of Palauans. Again, he was such an important leader that I want to extend Minister Parod the appreciation of the Palauan people to the government and to the people of Taiwan. After his passing, you were able to repatriate him back to Palau for his proper funeral. In my 36 years of elected public service as a senator, vice president, and president of Palau, I worked closely with Chief Ibdul and the traditional leadership of Palau, and really came to appreciate the coexistence of elected democratic leadership and traditional leadership. Basically, I must reiterate three things that must be present for democratic political leadership and traditional leadership to coexist. Three things. One is respect. Two is respect. And three is respect. And I have to re-emphasize 3 times because there is no other formula for the two systems of leadership to coexist side by side. Without respect, they cannot survive both style of leadership. But it's also worthy to note that we were fortunate from the very beginning to put in Palau's constitution and make it so that it basically accepts and confirms the practices of culture and traditional leadership, while at the same time spells out the formation of government institutions and leadership based on freedom and political principles. Let me quickly read to you the very important section in our Constitution, because I'm very happy that you even printed it in the Austronesian Forum booklet. Article 5 of our Constitution basically state, the government shall take no action to prohibit or revoke the role or function of a traditional leader as recognized by custom and tradition, which is not inconsistent with this Constitution. Nor shall it prevent a traditional leader from being recognized, honored, or given formal or functional role at any level of government. The second important point also, statutes and traditional law shall be equally authoritative. In case of conflict between a statute and a traditional law, the statute shall prevail only to the extent it is not in conflict with the underlying principles of the traditional law. That is as strong as you can make a case for the traditional system of government alongside the democratic principles of governance. I must share with you that to date, more good, more positive things have come about than conflicts and collisions. Let me share a few examples. Law and order. Traditional leadership and law enforcement agencies of the government have worked side by side to keep the peace throughout the land, especially in the villages and provinces where the chiefs of villages exercise their domain and responsibility for their clans and extended family system. Enforcing peace in the community, keeping law and order, protection of properties are easily maintained despite the lack of police presence in the communities. When the politics and debate and divisive issues arose in the early 1980s with the formation of our government, it brought civil disturbances, civil disobedience that sometimes went out of control, and yes, violence did occur. It became apparent that the traditional leadership was needed to restore peace and civility. Chief Ibadul, the late Chief Ibadul, and the traditional style and practices of leadership were able to be called upon to maintain peace through traditional men's groups and associations acting as peace officers. Even the traditional women's groups came out to pacify and call for peace and civility. Yes, Palau was rescued by its own traditional culture and leadership. Additionally, I share with you that when it comes to environmental protection and marine protected areas and the sustainability of our land and ocean resources, the traditional leadership, through what we call the Bull system, have really contributed to the overall success of enforcement and sustainability of marine resources. Through traditional practices, the Bull decree prohibiting the taking of identified species in a prohibited area became successful because the whole community take on the role of enforcers. Violators are fined in the traditional way. Even a chief can be liable to be fined if his people violate the rule of the law. Again, the positive message out of this is that enforcement is ensured even without the presence of police officers. Let me also share with you a success story that has come about with Palau with the creation of PNMS, or the Palau National Marine Sanctuary. So COVID-19 has reminded us of a very valuable lesson. That lesson is to go back to basics and focus on food security, environmental protection, cultural values that make you care for your family and your extended family and the community as a whole. This is very much needed in an enclosed border situation like COVID is doing to many of us. So working with the traditional leaders, we were able to get our National Congress to pass into law the world's largest marine sanctuary in terms of territorial percentage. The Palau National Marine Sanctuary represents 80% of our maritime domain jurisdiction, roughly 600,000 square kilometers of no-take zone, a conservation area. The large marine sanctuary will help sustain the marine population, the fish population needed to ensure food security for generations to come. This is a cultural value espoused in traditional leadership, looking out not just for this generation, but for generations to come. Additionally, the Council of Chiefs, composed of 16 traditional leaders from our 16 states, are called for by our national constitution to advise the President on all areas of traditions and the law. In this regard, the partnerships of politics and traditions continue to coexist in the administration of government. The 16 states, additionally, also have their own state constitution, where traditional leaderships are mixed with the elected state officials to administer the functions of the state administration. And while all conduct of business is generally good, there are very rare instances where collisions and conflicts do arise, and what is the authority of the traditional leadership and what is the authority of modern rule of law. There are traditional ways to resolve conflicts which could be different from the rule of law. Most of the time, the conflicts get resolved in the court system. But in some cases, the traditional way can be effective because it is about forgiveness, not so much on punishment. In the end, there is no one formula, not one formula that fits all countries or all situations. What is true for everyone is that culture and traditions also have good values and practices, and they can reinforce and strengthen the rule of law and modern politics. Both systems of leadership have to have strong values of respect, justice, and service for all. Our traditions give us a strong sense of identity, and that identity can unite us all and resolve us to be better persons and better island communities. Traditional leaderships, my friends, can make you competitive for the betterment of your clan, your community, your country, just as much as competitive leaderships that comes from politics and elected leadership. Austronesian countries are on the forefront of showing that we can progress in this modern world while retaining the essential values of our existences as people and as island nations. Let me end by emphasizing the importance of language, which give us our identity and represent our heritage. We must pass to our children not only the values of good leaderships, but the language that represent all the good things about our traditions and culture. Let us continue to stay vigilant in this mission through these kind of conferences and through our dealings with our respective governments. Thank you, and may God bless all of us.
I think from the very beginning we are so deeply touched because this is how Palau maintain and sustain a very healthy nation and also preserve cultural legacy and heritage. And when traditional leaders are backed legally, they have managed to build a common shared community and ensure that the entire population can prosper under the system. So I believe that CIP can actually circulate the speech of our former Palau president among our traditional leaders of Taiwan, so that we can learn from their lesson, and our three panelists can now give us different feedback and comments from a wide variety of backgrounds. And we have our panelists already joining us online. Now we are going to welcome Dr. Crabb from his perspective as the former CEO of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Thank you.
Ilina mai ke aloha ko Iakakua Pau, ia o ko Malaila I Taiwan, I na hoa makamaka I ka lehulehu Malaila o ke aha o Austronesian Forum. My aloha from Hawaii, and I pay my respects to Madam President Tsai Ing-wen and distinguished cabinet ministers, ambassadors of the diplomatic corps, especially the indigenous elders and leaders from the various tribes, as well as my aloha out to Chairperson Paro of the Council of Indigenous Peoples, as well as the Honorable Tami Ramagisao of Palau. Aloha mai, aloha no, aloha kako e. I first want to share how honorable and I am able to speak on Mana Ali'i o Hawaii traditional Hawaiian chiefly system and leadership. As the former CEO for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, it was my intent and hope to blend the two leadership styles into modern politics, but with traditional values, customs, beliefs, and practices. Next slide. It's important for me to share that the lineage of Hawaiian chiefly systems really dates back to the early 450, 500 AD or 4th, 5th century, with the first migrations coming from Marquesan Islands, and then later from Samoa, Tahiti, and Tonga. And those are because of the transoceanic voyages from Central and South Pacific Polynesian groups to Hawaii that later settled in Hawaii. By the 12th century, there was a Tahitian high priest who brought a new order of system that we have today. And his name was Pa'ao. And what he brought was the more formal system of a government that had a paramount chief, you had regional chiefs, district chiefs, and then at the local level. And then what he brought was a very sophisticated system of kahuna or priesthoods, but they were also professional craftsmen and artisans. Some were seers, healers, others were carvers, canoe experts, fishermen, and mahiai or agriculturalists. So they became the ruling class, and then from 1300 all the way to the 1800s to the rule of King Kamehameha, who united the islands of Hawaii. For over 500 years, it developed into a uniquely Hawaiian society based on the kapu system that Pa'ao brought. It's very similar to what Tami Ramangasao from Palau talked about their Bu system. We call it the kapu system. That system determined land management, ocean, and natural resource sustainability in terms of when we plant, which is according to the moon cycles and the different seasons. Our ceremonies are also conducted by the solar path of the equinox and solstice. And all of that is to embody or imbue the chief to oversee the sovereign reign, and most of all is the righteous governance of land and natural resources in cohabitation with the people and the society at large, but more so with the blessing of the gods. I believe the first Paiwan leader, Rangu Rungan, the Paiwan leader who talked about his chiefs coming from the gods, and it's similar for Hawaiians. We believe that in the ancient order, our chiefs were not only descendants of gods, but embodied the mana of gods. And they used the kapu system to define that order. We have what we call kapu or restrictions or laws that help to manage when you can fish, how much you can harvest. What's very important is the management and control of water in the best interest for planting crops and for the public health of society. Right now, there is a very significant challenges between our state government and local government with traditional cultural leadership and laws, because the Western forms of government have not done a really good job in terms of conservation and sustainability. So what we're finding is that there's a renaissance, or the governments are now looking to our kapu systems of restriction and laws on how we manage our natural resources. And that includes the forest, upland forest, watersheds, all the way down to our muliwai, where the fresh water meets the ocean that feeds the ocean life there. Next slide, please. What's really important for chiefly leadership is this concept of mana. And mana is a very dynamic spiritual belief our ancestors had that respected all life forms, animate and inanimate, human and non-human. That includes the wind, the clouds, the elements, animal life, fish life, as well as the land and the ocean itself. Our gods come from those natural elements, and we believe in those ancestral spirits still have power today. Mana was a concept that was a positive manifestation of chiefly power from the gods and channeled through the chiefs. And mana is generated from two fundamental pathways. It's inherited mana and acquired mana. Inherited mana is the biological DNA, the physical attributes, the intellectual and spiritual knowledge of our ancestors, and also the skills one is bequeathed from his, her parents, grandparents, and genealogical ancestors. So title and rank is also inherited mana as a chief passed down to his descendants and so on. Acquired mana is manifested through formal and informal training, education, learning of skills, developing of one's talents. And while it may appear individualistic, mana is mostly altruistic, meaning it is expected, or the belief of our people is that you use your skills, your intelligence, your talents, and your gifts for the betterment, principally for promoting the well-being and happiness of the people and society at large. And as I shared, it's the balance of using the laws of nature and those restrictions of kapu in the betterment for providing food sustainability, as former President Ramangasao had shared. It's also about the survival and perpetual sustainability of the people and the land and the resources itself that all play a part in the material, culture, and identity of our people. Next slide, please. Mana is not just spiritual power, but it's a confirmation of that power from our ancestors. And we have three spiritual pathways of connecting to our ancestors. The first is on the top. We call them the Piko Ola, ancestral connections. On the top of our head, when we sleep at night, our spirits are able to wander in the evening or nighttime and dwell in the realm of our ancestors at night. And that is our spiritual portal to our ancestors. When we awake, we are governed by our kapiko kana'a, or spiritual connection to our parents through our umbilical cord. That is the direct connection of the inherited mana from our parents, our grandparents, and our forefathers before us. And then lastly is the kapiko or ama'i, or our private parts or genitals are used for procreation. And in that process of procreation, it is really in the spirit of O'ululahui, is to propagate the next generation in order to sustain the people and your genealogical lineage as a family, as chief, and of your village. And so that is the spiritual bond to our future unborn generations. And so this concept of mana is not only about our cultural identity, but it really connects us, and we are mindful of our obligation and responsibility to our ancestors. And then how we carry that out to today. If most times our chiefs were very benevolent and very loved by our people. I believe the Paiwan leader had shared that as well. But we did, like other cultures and people, we did have chiefs that were unruly. However, they were not revered over time by our people overall. So in conclusion, the role and responsibility and obligation of chiefs is really a spiritual devotion to the heavens and the gods. And we do that through institutional ceremonies on our sites. And on the top is one of our heiau, our temples and shrines. And like the other indigenous leaders, like a Kuba and Palakuan, we also have like a Halemua, which is a men's house, and a Haleopapa, which is a women's house. And they provide the order and deliberate over the politics of the village, the community, and the people. The other role and responsibility of a chief is the perpetual care for lands, ocean, and all life forms. And lastly, and mostly, is the health and well-being of the Lahui, or people, and sustaining the cultural and ancestral heritage of our forefathers. Today, like many of the other Taiwan indigenous leaders, we have a challenge of merging traditional value leadership with modern day Western politics. And so today, and I would have to concur with the Honorable Ramagesao, is that there is great mana, there is great power and resilience in traditional leadership, because we have a higher belief in our responsibility to our environment, to our people, but mostly really is perpetuating the legacy of our ancestors and forefathers. That is really what drives traditional leadership and mana for our people. And this is a saying, "E ua lani a haloa I pili I ka hanau I ke kapu." Here is a chief descended from Haloa whose kapu makes one hold his breath indeed. It's a saying of very esteemed and righteous traditional leaders. And because of their righteousness and moral values, they were elevated in honor, and many chants and songs were, and stories and legends foretold about their greatness and contribution to Hawaii and our people. In closing, I wanted to leave this chant and really dedicate it to the two elders from Atayao who gave the opening blessing. It's customary for us as well is to honor the indigenous people as guests to your land and sharing.
We would like to thank Dr. Crab for participating in this panel discussion through the perspective of Hawaii. And we look forward. We now give the floor to our second panelist, and we'll see how much time we have left for questions. We next invite a very important experience. Thank you, Minister Di Jiang and everyone. Hello, everyone. I am the executive of the headquarters of the Austronesian Forum in Palau. I am Pan Jiamei, and Palau is one of the few countries that has a coexisting system of traditional leaders and the administrative system. And I will be talking about the introduction of the traditional society, the traditional rights in the Constitution, Men's Meeting House, Council of Traditional Chiefs, Palau Women Conference, and I will end with a video on the 25th Independence Day in 2019. Palau basically is a matriarchal society, and women have a higher status, and it's a hereditary title and status. But women, the female clan leader, they have the final power to decision. They have the selection and appointment of the title holder, and for those that do not fit the position, they also have the right to revoke it. And this is also passed down to this day. And regarding the title that has been bestowed, you have your obligations and your responsibilities, not just for the clan, but also in public affairs. For example, as a traditional leader, if a male leader is given the highest title, then this man becomes the traditional leader in the community, and with it comes the corresponding duties and obligations. And the place where they meet and discuss is Abai, which is Men's Meeting House. In the past, you can see the Palau has Western and Eastern Kingdom. Ibdul is the Western and Reklai for the Eastern Kingdoms. And they have many different communities, and they have their own councils and their own bai. And we can see there are 10 to 11 titles, and they all meet in Abai. In 1981, the constitution was entered into force, and Palau gained independence in 1994. But the traditional cultures and political systems did not disappear, but preserved in their constitution. And as Mahbub has also read through the articles of constitution, and it's very important, so I would like to reiterate. According to Article 5, the government shall take no action to prohibit or revoke the role or function of a traditional leader as recognized by custom and tradition, which is not inconsistent with this constitution, nor shall it prevent a traditional leader from being recognized, honored, or given formal or functional roles at any level of government. Statutes and traditional law shall be equally authoritative in case of conflict between a statute and a traditional law. The statute shall prevail only to the extent it is not in conflict with the underlying principles of the traditional law, and the picture is Aklai of the current traditional leader. According to the Article 8, Section 6 of the Constitution, we can see the Council of Chiefs composed of a traditional chief from each of the states shall advise the president on matters concerning traditional laws, customs, and their relationship to this constitution and laws of Palau. No person shall be a member of the Council of Chiefs unless he has been appointed and accepted as a chief in a traditional manner and is recognized as such by the traditional Council of Chiefs of his state. No chief shall serve in the Council of Chiefs while serving as a member in the Obil era Kulai or the cabinet. And this is the old council house. This is where the traditional leaders meet nowadays, where the Council of Chiefs meet. We can see that the members in the Council of Chiefs are constituted by the 16 traditional leaders of the 16 states. And these are not appointed. These are all selected and appointed by their female leaders in their communities. and their powers and responsibilities are they have the advisory authoritative at national level. They have the right to legislator and consultants of traditional affairs to the president. They have budgets allocated and have their own dedicated office. This picture is their office. In addition to traditional leaders, after they have become a democratic country, they all have their elected leaders. Traditional and elected leaders are both of national levels. They all have their state councils, where they have their state council members. Here, this is the Narak state where the Mangbut comes from. In this picture, we can see the Mangbut is already the traditional leader and this is a picture of the president alongside the traditional leader, where the traditional leader stands right in the middle. In their council, they have a number of traditional leaders and elected leaders. The traditional leaders not only take care of the traditional sense, but also contemporary issues. The women of Palau are called Mesi Palau, even though they are not constitutionally protected, but the female clan leaders continue to take care of the society. In contrast to Ibdul and Iklai, we have the Belun and Ebklai. We have the red is Belun and Ebklai is the one next to her. They are the highest matriarchs and they have the ultimate decision power. They have the Council of Mesi Palau, where female traditional leaders of each state form the members of this council. Every year they have a Mesi Palau conference. Earlier on, the eastern and western kingdoms self-governed, but later on they formed one council and invited all women to participate to salvage the disappearing culture, and they talk about traditional culture, health, environment, and education. Every year we have a lot of politicians participate in their meeting, and their resolutions will be given to traditional leaders, president, vice president, and legislators, and it's very influential to the policies that they make. And I would like to share with you a short video on the 2019 25th Independence Day. At the very beginning, this is a traditional chant in Palau, and the one next besides our this is our Secretary General who's chanting, and the president is sitting next to her, and the entire process is conducted in their language, the Palauan.
那跟总统同样坐在第一排的是帛琉的传统领袖，后面的是我们。
At the front we can see their traditional leader and Minister Yi Jiang as the special envoy in the second row, and the one that's making a remark is Reklai, the traditional leader. The people who are the first to make remarks are these traditional leaders, then followed by president. The traditional leaders are very important and have a very high social status in the society and continue to take on their obligations. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
谢谢佳美。
Thank you, Jia Mei, for giving us a very clear presentation in Mandarin about the traditional leadership system in Palau. And our next panelist is from Marshall Islands. And our next speaker will share with us his insight and experience with the culture of Marshall Islands. Our next speaker is Michael Kabua.
I am happy to extend warm greeting from the Marshall Islands, and especially the people of Relic and KwaZulu-Natal. I thank the organizer of this year's Estonia platform for giving me the opportunity to say a few words regarding my culture and custom. But first of all, when the U.S. government administrator the Marshall Islands, along with the rest of the Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands, they create an advisory Congress of the Marshall Islands, which comprised of a House of Heroes, Paramount Chief, and a House of Assembly, elected representative. This was the introduction of the traditional leader into legislative body, government. Once the Congress was reorganized, it was made into a legislature with reserved seat for the Heroes Lavalab in its final form before self-governance. The Marshall Island Legislature was composed of 24 legislators, of whom 2 Heroes Lavalab and 4 Kajur were elected in each of the 4 electoral states. Our discussion today is very important as it touches on the very core of Marshallese life, the mountain model and Heroes system. The Heroes system and mountain model have served as the government structure guiding the lives of Marshallese people for many, many centuries. As such, the Marshallese tradition system as its root firmly established thousands of years ago and was erected on the twin pillar of Heroes, the chief, and Kajur, commoner. While it is feudalistic, it's also reciprocal and authority of the created designated matrilineal land tenure system. Marshallese, therefore, deprived their land right from their mother. It should be noted that, in that sense, land belonged not to individual, but rather to extended family clan. Presiding Heroes, Alap, Senior Reserval, all custodial right during their tenure as guardian. Before the Marshall Island Constitution in 1979, land ownership was more or less restricted to the Heroes, chief, and Kajur, commoner. After 1979, the Constitution provides a 3-year land ownership of Heroes, Alap, and Reserval in the Royal Exchange, while in some places in the Royal Exchange, 4-year leadership of Heroes, Eric, Alap, and Reserval. The 12th member Council of Heroes meet annually when the Parliament is in session. The Council of Heroes play an important balancing advisory role. They appear of the Marshallese people to provide advice to the Legislature on matters related to Marshallese tradition and custom. In a sense, the Council is the embodiment of the land right and all that is valuable to the Marshallese people. Under the Constitution, all bills passed by the Legislature must be transmitted to the Council of Heroes to review so it does not interfere with the Marshallese custom and culture. If the Council finds or consider appeal to affect or impact on Marshallese custom and tradition, it requests the Legislature to reconsider the legislation. Also under the Constitution, the Legislature cannot proceed beyond the first reading of the bill. If in the opinion of the Speaker, the measure affects Marshallese custom, Under such scenario, the Nadi and Council of Europe form a joint committee to study the legislation and make recommendation to the Nadi. Council of Europe is conclusive and advisory function. It does not have veto right over Nadi legislation. Nevertheless, the Council of Europe is a definitely institution and an all unique place in the heart and mind of the Marshallese people as that special institution that safeguard and protect the tradition, custom, right, and traditional prohibited property of the Marshall Islands. The Constitution also provides that when a land title dispute is filed in the High Court, the court must refer the dispute to the Traditional Right Court to review the matter in accordance with the Marshallese land right lineage and inheritance practice. The Traditional Right Court, or TRC, has 3 members appointed by the Nirjala, Compromise and Eros, Alap, and Senior Reservoir. I wish to mention at this time that Marshallese custom and manat is organic, it's living, involving change and adapting to emerging circumstance and time. Last but not least, the Constitution grants the Nadi Council of Europe the authority to declare by the legislation at any time the proper manat, custom, and tradition of the Marshallese people. Again, Komodata, Chenche, thank you very much.
In the interest of time, we can only have the panelists short intervention, but their insights can give us a very good opportunity to visit and review our process. And we also have a hereditary system through which we can choose our own traditional leader, while we also have an election process. So which will be a better path for the development for a healthy society? So in terms of that question, I would like to invite our Minister Ijan to give us a quick and brief conclusion of our morning session. Thank you. So these conclude our 2 morning sessions of our forum. So we do have, because of interested time, in the interest of time, we don't have the opportunity to open the floor for exchange. I know you're all hungry, so I believe we have the luncheon ready for you. So after my quick conclusion, we can actually all go to the lunch place and then proceed to exchange our views and ideas. Before I conclude our forum, I would like to add on one thing, that this morning I also so I have already given out a copy of my remarks this morning. So in the first third paragraph of my talk, I explained the origin of this forum, because I was designated by the president to attend Palau's 25th National Independence Anniversary. So the short video clip that was shared before was the event I attended. So the former Palau president was there, and I was very surprised to see that their traditional leaders would be the ones to give the opening remarks on the national celebration day, and then they had Palau women lead a chant gave opening remark. So that was how Palau celebrated a national day, and we just heard from the traditional leadership system from Marshall Islands as well as Hawaii. So we do have an opportunity here in Taiwan to carry on the legacy of our traditional leader system because in their constitution, Article 5th and Article 8th, they have similar statements. And I think in Taiwan, we can also make it possible without amending our constitution, because I was involved in the amendment of constitutional amendment process, because it was said that we need to ensure indigenous people's political engagement and involvement, and also we need to ensure their education and welfare. What does that mean? So when we heard from the presentations from Palau, Marshall Islands, we have the opportunity to bypass a constitutional amendment, and we can still make sure that we can continue the legacy of traditional leadership. And at the end of our forum, I would like to ask you to give a round of applause to our two moderators, Professor Safulo and Professor Gadu. Thank you. And also our two moderators and our two speakers, the former township mayor, Luan, as well as Tommy Raymond Gesu. And again, I would like to emphasize this point. For this 15 minutes of keynote speech, Tommy made a point by flying over to Taiwan, and 2 days later he is going to return to Palau. So you can see how much trouble he has went through just to in order to come over to visit us. So please give him another round of applause. And also, we need to express our gratitude to all of our panelists. Please give them another round of applause. Last but not least, I would like to ask you to give yourself a round of applause for attending this forum. Thank you. Thank you. We would now like to invite all the panelists and speakers and moderator to take a group photo with Minister Yi Jiang. A reminder for all of our audience, thank you for coming to attend our forum, and our luncheon place is in B1. And for those of our guests who came here by driving your car, you can come to us and collect your